is going, giving us everything. Just a few things to note. So this meeting is being recorded. We're going to share it on our YouTube. But if yeah, so just so that everybody knows. Cool. Thank you so much for putting your names in the chat as well. We're very excited to see all of you, and hopefully we get to see all of you in person and virtually on Thursday. So, what is APNI? So, APNI is the African Professional Network of Ireland, and we're basically a community of professionals who live and work in Ireland. It was founded in 2016, and the whole purpose was to empower and collaborate with different people in Ireland. So, currently, APNI is run by volunteers. So, every person on the APNI team is actually doing this voluntarily, and everybody has a 9 to 5, which is amazing. I think it's quite nice that we get to do this. And on Thursday, we're even joined by some really amazing volunteers as well. So we're very excited about that. So we decided to start during Career Day in 2022, right? That was the very first time that we had our career fair. We saw that there was a gap in the market. Essentially, a lot of companies were saying that they didn't know where to find professionals who look like us or find people from our background. So we decided to create the platform that bridges that gap to get employers in front of people of our community and to also just come together as a community to celebrate and network with one another. Um, just a few statistics. So at the moment, 54% of the APNI community has third level educational qualifications, but then 20% of that APNI community are also employed in roles that reflects their qualifications. So what this essentially means is that there are good number of people who essentially doing really well for themselves, have good education, and just out of that, 20% are in roles that they actually qualified for. So some people are working in roles that they are either underqualified for or just, could be doing better in. So the whole point of Career Day is to get people in front of these recruiters and provide them with opportunities to either switch careers or like develop new skills, meet new people, and also hopefully get a new job as well. So that is why we're doing Career Day. So again, just a few things to know about this year's Career Day. It's happening on Thursday, the 17th of October at 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's happening at the LinkedIn office, and we're going to be joined by 20 different companies. So 17 companies and three of our community partners. So we have Google, Zurich, Kellanova, Basiron, JSA, DocuSign, MSD, Bank of Ireland, Enterprise, Medtronic, IDA Ireland, Irish Life, Grant Thornton, JP Morgan, Aviva, Slalom, Vodafone. I know I didn't have to mention all of them, but I'm very excited about it. That's why I'm going all over it. So thank you. And then we have our three community partners, UCD Professional Academy, Black Therapist Island, and Fragomen, who are a visa and immigration consultancy. So we're very excited to have all of these people there. So I'm going to hand over now to Innocent, who is going to be taking us through today's webinar. We're very excited to hear what he has to say. I'm just going to read his bio here. It's very long, but I'm going to try and keep it short because, But Innocent is a dedicated tech solutions recruiter with over 3 years of experience in the full 360 recruitment cycle. His passion for helping individuals find fulfilling careers was sparked during his master thesis on job satisfaction. Recognizing the importance of self-investment, he is committed to assisting others in landing their dream jobs. Innocent has a strong background in sourcing, advertising, interviewing, contracts negotiation, and placement across technology, SaaS, pharmaceuticals, finance, and hospitality. He excels at building robust talent pipelines to meet current and future hiring needs and invites those seeking career fulfillment to connect for a conversation about their professional journey. So, with a round of virtual applauses, shall we welcome Innocent to the stage? Thank you so much, Innocent. Sorry, Innocent. I think you're muted. Can't hear you.
Yeah, this happens to me all the time. Thank you so much. And I was gonna say thank you very, very much. I'm really, really grateful to APNI for this wonderful opportunity. So without further ado, I'd like to just say a quick hello to everyone. Hope you're all keeping well. It's always nice to see people that are not just based in Dublin. I'm from Dublin myself, but I've actually recently moved to County Louth. So I'd consider myself a culture at this point myself. So always a pleasure to meet people outside of Dublin. Thank you very much. Without further ado, I definitely think I'll just kind of crack on with the start. As Daniela has already said, my name is Innocent Matthew. I'm a recruiter with over 4 years of experience, and I do have a comprehensive understanding of the full 360 recruitment cycle. Some of the industries I've been exposed to include the likes of software or SaaS as we know it, pharmaceuticals, finance, and hospitality. Currently transitioning into a new company at the moment, so there's definitely going to be a lot more news on that element. My educational background is in psychology, and then followed up by my master's in human resources. So that's I've been pretty busy over the last couple of years, for lack of a better word. One of the things I'm really passionate about, and you notice in my picture there, is the quotation. So, what do you do? I really love asking people what they do, and I also love, seeing if they actually love what they do as well. And here's why. I think for myself, I really love my job. If there's ever a thing I've ever, looked back on and really considered this is something that I really enjoy, it's recruitment. I like the idea of people being able to essentially just be in charge of their own career and in charge of the things that they do love as well. And essentially, that's particularly why I ask people if they love their jobs, because if they don't, I want to see if I can help them land their dream job and lead a successful career. So I'm just going to take a quick pause. Are you excited for APNI Career Day 2024 coming up? If you are, please feel free to drop a fire emoji, just to highlight how excited you are. Because I can tell you this, I'm very excited. I would have never imagined an event like this over the last decade, and to see this happening now is honestly such a pleasure. And it's really, as Daniela said, it's really an honor to see people that look like us be in very high positions and be in positions that can actually influence, how diverse our cultures can be in the Republic of Ireland. So yeah, very excited with that. So we're going to kick off our agenda. So the first thing we're going to do is talk through understanding career fairs, right? So what they are and how they benefit both the job seeker as well as employees in full-time employment. Next up, we're going to talk through various steps to consider before career day. So specifically looking at, researching roles in companies, tailoring your resume and cover letters as well, doing a good bit of interview prep, with common interview questions that we are to expect, and essentially overcoming nervousness during the career fair. I speak to you as a person that has a history of being nervous during interviews, so I could definitely speak to a couple of things that will come up, for sure. Furthermore, we're going to talk through making lasting impressions during career day and navigating the event as a virtual attendee as well, because again, we don't just have physical attendees, we have people that will be attending virtually as well, which again is the new news, as I like to call it. Finally, we'll close off with some key steps to take in order to build long-term relationships after career day as well. So definitely a lot of excitement to come through. So very briefly, what is career fair? For me, it is a recruiting event in which employees and recruiters meet with potential employees, and where job seekers find more about job openings at their potential employer in the future. So to put it simple, for me, it's the one time a recruiter or a hiring manager cannot ghost you. So you have to make the most of it. It is a networking event. And yes, I should apologize right now. I'm probably going to say the word networking quite a lot, but essentially that's exactly what it is. And this is why we are here. So why are these job fairs so important for job seekers? So I'm going to quickly tell you a bit of a story. When I was 17 years old, I worked as a door-to-door fundraiser for homeless animals. The aim was to basically get as many families to sign up to sponsor animals on a monthly subscription. One of the objections that we were taught to manage or to handle was when a family said something along the lines of, can I please see a brochure, or is there any newspapers that I can read about? And then that way I can maybe let you know on what I want to decide. And we were basically led to say, actually, I'm a walking brochure. I'm everything you could basically read about. And I can tell you anything you'd like to know today. Needless to say, I really didn't last long in that job. I don't even think I lasted 2 weeks, if I'm being completely honest. But I did learn one valuable thing from that experience, and that is that making lasting impressions is about how you present yourself more than it is about what people read about you. That's why we do interviews even after we've read your resume. So you're a working resume yourself. You're a walking CV. Of course, that's just the one side of things, right? So career fairs also give you the opportunity to learn about the company even further. So do come with your questions. You also have to know if the company that you're going for is actually for you. Sure, you would have read about the companies you speak with, and you would have done your research as well, but you need to see in person how much these recruiters and hiring managers that are going to be there speak about the company that they represent as well. So this will give you the opportunity to assess if they like the company that they're representing, or if they just want to do their job for the sake of doing the job. Do you know what I mean? So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So for employees that are currently working at the moment, we get it. You're very happy at your company. You're very mindful. You're very demure. But I cannot tell you how many times I've interviewed with super experienced candidates and they fail the recruitment process to get, or even to get their points across in the most effective way. And this is very common because they've been with one company maybe for over 5 years or maybe 10 years, and they're out of touch with the interview process. So I always encourage employees out there to just go out there, go to the career fairs, talk to people, talk to recruiters, interview. Because yes, the grass may be greener where you are right now, but it can be greener than it is at the moment. So you also have to remember that you can be an asset to other job seekers out there as well. So I do definitely encourage attendance at the career fair for sure. Okay. So for me, one of the best ways to prepare for something is to make sure that you do your research, right? So before the career day, I would always say you have to do as much as you can to make sure you're informed. So on the next slide, we'll walk through how to go about researching a company as well as finding the respective individuals that you can reach out to as well. Okay. In this session, we're going to use DocuSign as an example. So let's get straight to it. At the moment, we're currently at DocuSign's landing page. But what you want to do is to make sure that you navigate to the careers landing page. So we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and this could be different for every single company. Some companies have the careers page at the very top, and some have it at the very bottom. So we're going to scroll to the bottom and very quickly navigate to the careers page. Now, similar to this, there are two ways you could actually start looking at jobs. You could very quickly go into jobs, or you could go back to overview and click search jobs, and that will also do the same thing. So because this is very high level, we're going to filter by location, go on to Dublin because we're in Ireland, and you should be able to start seeing some jobs and various categories that each job or career slot fits under. There are some positions here that I'm quite familiar with, so I would be looking at the account executive role, which is under the field sales category, and as you can see, it is located in Dublin. So if I click that very high level, you should be able to get an understanding of the company overview, which a lot of people would normally use this in order to basically figure out a brief overview of what the company is all about and what they stand for, and then you'll very quickly be able to navigate and understand your responsibilities and exactly what this role would entail, and what would make you successful in this particular position. So once you have all the information that you require, going back at the top again, you'll notice that it is an account executive role. What I would always recommend then is going to LinkedIn, which we're going to do right now. We know that the role that is currently active is an account executive role, which is basically a fancy word for a sales closer. And so we're going to see if we can find a recruiter that could potentially be looking after this position. So what I will do is I will go on to LinkedIn's search bar and type in recruiter. You want to make sure that you're looking for people, so you will click on that. And then you want to make sure that the people you're looking for are currently in DocuSign. So we're going to type in DocuSign here. Hopefully that will help us find what we're looking for. And then you can click show results. So almost immediately, you'll either find sales development representatives or you could find recruiters that are currently working at DocuSign at the moment. The particular page that sticks out to me a lot more would be this one here. So as you can see, this particular individual is an EMEA sales recruiter at DocuSign. So we know that there's a strong chance that they might be looking after account executive roles. So I would very quickly click onto this particular individual's page, and then I would navigate to the bottom, and I would immediately see how long they've been working for. So they've been in the role for 3 years, and they also have a little bit about what the company actually stands for. But of course, if you wanted to get a lot more behind what DocuSign does at the moment, you could always also click this symbol here, and that will basically bring you to DocuSign's landing page on LinkedIn. Now, that is one way to search for a recruiter. There's also a different way you could do this, and that is by using what we call a Boolean search. So you could type recruiter, and then you will make sure that since you're looking for a particular recruiter, you want to make sure that you're looking for a recruiter that is currently either working at DocuSign or has worked at DocuSign in the past. So you will then do an and button, which basically has to look like this. It always has to be in caps lock if you're trying to basically fetch for a recruiter that is currently working at DocuSign or has worked at DocuSign in the past. And then you can type DocuSign. And this should bring you similar results. It would either bring you candidates or employees that are currently working at DocuSign or have previously worked at DocuSign before, or like this particular individual that is currently a sales representative at DocuSign would also potentially have previous recruitment experience as well. So that is another way to navigate finding a recruiter or somebody working at DocuSign, especially if you're looking for a referral, or if you're looking to see if you can have um, a chat with anyone that might be working at the company at the moment. In this Okay, thank you very much for that. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you're finding it all useful so far. I session, did not do that for any reason, or I didn't do that because I did a water break or anything like that. But if you are enjoying everything so far, please feel free to just drop a thumbs up emoji, and that will definitely give me the indication that I'm not boring you or I haven't, caused you to sleep off at any point in time. Okay, let's kick off. So moving on to tailoring your CV or your cover letter. So I've kind of added a couple of notes here that I think would be quite useful. I intentionally haven't given like a specific CV that you could look at. And the reason behind this for me personally is I see a lot of CVs, and a lot of CVs can be done very correctly, and they could be done very wrongly as well. And I always say, well, there's different types of recruiters. Different recruiters like different things as well. So what I've actually done then in this case is I've actually just dropped these couple of points that I think would be quite imperative or quite important for any recruiter that you come across. So the first point I've kind of mentioned here is to be realistic. So what do I mean by that? I always think that you should make sure that your resume has enough information that strongly correlates with the job you're going after. For example, if you have an entry level marketing background and you're studying maybe marketing in uni as well, you could potentially go for an entry level sales position if there is enough transferable skills there, but you might not be eligible to go for a managerial position. To put it simple, if you were a nurse, you wouldn't apply to be a surgeon. It's just because you just don't have the skill set. But you will be surprised how much of this we actually see as recruiters. We see people, using different roles just to kind of apply for other roles, and there's just no transferability there, or they haven't been able to kind of convey that with a cover letter that they're looking to kind of change jobs. And that could put you at a disadvantage if you are in the market for a new position. The next point I've kind of mentioned here is that keywords are so important. I think if a company mentions the duties that you'll be responsible for on their job description, then make sure to see what those keywords are, and that you can include as part of your day-to-day responsibility on your CV. So if they say they're looking for somebody that is scrappy, or maybe they're looking for somebody with extenuous, say experience in X, Y, and Z, make sure that that X, Y, and Z it includes the keywords that you could also include in your CV as well. And this is not for the purposes that you think. A lot of people think that there is, a lot of these, AIs that we use in order to basically read our resumes. Like not every single company has that, and not every software company has that. It's just so we could actually be able to carefully assess that do you actually have the skill set that we're looking for. And that's pretty much it. Now, there is a long debate about whether cover letters are important or not. So whether or not you do include a cover letter, you still have to keep the last 2 points in mind at all times. Doing your research on a company is very important. I think I've very much clarified that, but you also have to know what you're signing up for. So for anyone in a relationship right now, you know this. Your partner probably stalked all of your social media platforms before they agreed to commit. Some even have a younger brother or a younger sister who is a whiz at background checks. Why? And this is because they need to know who they're about to get with. And I think that's fair to say for somebody that might be looking into the jobs that they're interested in. And I know that probably sounds very, very cliche and very corny for an analogy, but it is the truth, right? So more to the point above, I think you might decide, if you do decide to do a cover letter, you might message a potential employer on LinkedIn as well, or you might do an elevator pitch when talking to an employer at a career fair. So this is where personalized messaging comes in. So companies get a lot of messages from candidates time, but very few people will actually personalize a message that shows that you've done your research on a company, the employer, or even the employer that you're reaching out to, and the reason that you think you would be a great fit. So my go-to motto is this. In a room where everybody is sitting in, you do have to stand out. And I think that if you can showcase that, you have tailored your messaging to a point where you're like, hey, I've actually read about your company. This is what interests me. This is what I think is really, really good. And this is why I'm signing up. That automatically shows the reason, right? And I say that to say this, as recruiters, we definitely read a lot of. I mean, I've been addressed to as Lindsay before because I know that a candidate has just basically copied and pasted a message that they sent to somebody maybe working in a completely different company. So I hope that definitely helps in one way or the other. So these are some of the common questions to expect, from a recruiter, or it could be from an employer. And maybe you probably see this happening on Career Day as well. Questions like, tell me about yourself. Why are you interested in this company? Why you? And, what attracted you to this particular position itself? What is your salary expectation? So some of these points that I've actually included here I've already addressed a lot of these answers on my TikTok. So if you do have an opportunity, please feel free to basically navigate that, and that should walk you through how you can go about answering some of these questions. And I say that to say this. Preparation for this is also very imperative. So you do have to know the why behind your answer, or the so what. I have a lot of people when I say, well, why are you interested in this role? You're like, well, I think I'm very, well, I have experience in this particular position. And I always say, well, so what? Like, what makes that important for why you've applied? And you have to be able to say, look, this is what I've done in the last couple of years. I think I'd be really a really great asset to this company because this is essentially what you said that you're looking for. So being able to tailor your thought process to why you're actually applying for a role is very imperative. Using the STAR methodology is also very important as well. So STAR is an acronym for anybody that might not know, is an acronym for situation, task, action, and result. And this gets answered either very well or completely wrong. And I feel like people get really robotic when they see the STAR methodology in terms of how you answer the question. They're like, oh, well, the situation that comes to mind is, oh, and then I had the task of doing this, and then I had the action to do this, and this was the result. And it's like, you have to use the STAR methodology in a way that showcases that you're a storyteller. You understand what it means to go from A to Z without stumbling or without basically, rambling and, going overboard in your answering as well. Another thing that you can do to kind of prepare your answers is to basically practice in a mirror. If I'm being completely honest with you right now, and if we're being transparent, before I did this presentation, I looked in the mirror and I did it. Actually, what I actually did was I opened up Zoom before anybody else did, and I started talking to myself because I knew I'd be looking at the screen. So it's something that I know I actively had to keep practicing myself as well. And trust me, I've been doing this for years, and I still feel like I always have to practice. It's like one thing that I heard Beyonce training for at least an hour or even 3 hours sometimes before she actually gets on stage. So it doesn't matter how good you are at presentations, doesn't matter how good you are at interviews, it's something that you continuously have to practice all the time. There's also a lot of online videos as well that you can leverage. So if you feel like you don't want to do the other parts, you could always watch a video, or maybe you're a kinesthetic learner like myself as well. That could be something that could be useful for yourself as well. Okay, so this is to address anybody that is nervous. So what are the common signs that tell you that you're nervous? The points that I've included here are the likes of elevated heart rate, butterflies in your stomach, and sweating. So the interesting thing about all of this is that these are the same signs that you have if you're excited. So for me, having studied psychology, I know that it's about a mindset shift. If you feel nervous, you could equally feel excited. So it's a matter of what you feel could help you at the moment that you're being presented with. So, how can we overcome being nervous then? When I was thinking about this situation, I remembered a book that I read when I was in my first year of secondary school titled Take the Plunge, which is basically jump into the coldest bucket of water or jump into the coldest swimming pool that you've ever been given. It reminded me of times I've come face to face with a swimming pool, and instead of just jumping in and taking the plunge, I normally just dip my toe first and then gradually get in, which sounds okay, but in reality, I'm actually making the process to experience the cold a lot longer than it needs to be, as opposed to just being cold from the very get-go and gradually getting used to it. Now I would just basically take the plunge and see what happens. And I think that we need to learn to do that a lot more. Just jump in, feel the cold, and then at some point you'll get used to it and you'll be fine. You've also heard the saying, if you hang around the barbershop, you end up getting a haircut, which is basically saying, if you're surrounded by an environment where people are interviewing and speaking all the time, which is what you're going to basically face on career day, and I need to tell you this because I've been to the APNI career day, it is packed. There's a lot of fun that happens, and there's a lot of talking that's going to happen. A lot of you are probably going to go home with your voices absolutely painful. And I say that to say this, you'll find yourself talking quite a lot. You'll find yourself reinventing yourself as you're talking to maybe going from one company to the other. So if you're speaking to somebody from Bank of Ireland and then you go to Fragment, don't be surprised by the fact that you're gradually going to get much more confident as you go on. You're going to talk like you've always been doing this. So feel free to be nervous, feel free to fail when you're maybe speaking to some of the employers on that particular day, but keep moving and keep talking. And I guarantee you, I promise you, it's going to be so much better by the time you leave. So yeah, don't be shy, don't be nervous. And furthermore, this is something I had to add. A friend of mine always says this: "Why are you so nervous? Nobody's going to," and that's the truth. Honestly, you only have yourself here to basically, throw yourself in the deep end. Nobody's going to come and beat you just because you're nervous and because you can't speak to an employer. And employers won't even know you any better anyways. So feel free to just take the plunge. Okay, so during a career day, these are some of the common mistakes that I feel I've encountered, having been in a few career days myself. So the question we used to get when I was actually in one of the podium was a lot of candidates or potential candidates coming up to us and saying, "What do you guys do?" And for me, this is particularly not a red flag, so to say, but it is a flag in the sense that you've basically told me that you don't know who we are, and you basically told me that you haven't done any research on us. And I think that to kind of flip that over for this particular career day, we'd love to see a lot of candidates that have demonstrated they know what Bank of Ireland does, they know what MSD does. So you're probably coming in from the angle of, "Oh my God, you're MSD. You guys work on medical devices. This is so amazing. This is so cool. Can I talk to you about how I think I might be a good fit for the company?" Do you know what I mean? And I think that just puts you in more of a position of power because you've definitely just demonstrated that you know who they are, you know what they do, you know what products they sell, and you also have a significant background that could be an asset to them as well, as opposed to, "Hey, what do you guys do?" And maybe you might even turn around and be like, "Oh, could I please just get the goodie bag?" And they'll know as well that you're probably not there for the right reasons. The next common mistake I see is people just not asking the right questions. More to the point at the top. Some of the candidates that have come across don't really take notes, and they don't even ask afterwards maybe to connect with the recruiter. Excuse me, to connect with the recruiter on LinkedIn or exchange any form of detail whatsoever. It could be an email address or anything like that that makes you remember. Because if you remember, the particular point of why we're doing this is to make lasting impressions, which is fancy for you need to come out of career day feeling remembered. And then this is to say that if you're not being intentional with why you're speaking to an employer on that particular day, then you won't be remembered. And for the likes of anybody that might be coming in as a virtual attendee as well, some of the common mistakes that we see happening are people cooking in the background, people doing their hair or vacuuming, and they just basically have the APNI event just stuck in the background. And honestly, doing that in as much as you know what you're doing, or in as much as you know what this particular situation is, if you're not able to connect, then you might be missing out on quite a lot as well. And then finally, not practicing your storytelling. That is definitely a common mistake. You see a lot of people get stuck. Now, I will say this as a recruiter that has been in Career Day, if you don't have your storytelling polished, it's okay. We can talk through that and we can talk about how you can make that better. So I've seen a lot of recruiters being a lot more lenient in terms of lenient is such a strong word, but a lot more accommodating when they see that, okay, this person is quite nervous, they don't really know what they're saying. So we tend to start maybe, throwing in a few things to kind of help you have a proper conversation and hopefully, help you be a lot more confident as you move on as well. Okay. So, for anyone who might not know what an elevator pitch is, it is a brief way of introducing yourself, getting across a key point or two, making a connection with someone. So, here's an example of how you might go about writing up one, and so that you can learn and master it over time as well. Without further ado, I will play the video.
Here is a very quick crash course on how you can create your elevator pitch using ChatGPT. All right, so I've already set up a prompt already. So this is what I've written down for ChatGPT. I've said, I'm looking to make an elevator pitch about myself. Can I share my work experience and you help me create the pitch I can speak to my employers with? So if I click send, it'll basically tell me, no problem, just share your work experience, etc., etc. And just so you know, I have already copied every single element of my experience here, all the way from my time at HubSpot, all the way down to my time at Accenture. So I'm going to paste this now. And this is what it'll come up with. So it'll say something along the lines of, hi, I'm Innocent. I'm a dedicated recruiter with a proven track record of enhancing candidate experience, etc., etc. I've achieved 100% offer acceptance rate at this year and successfully hired over 45% of diverse candidates, etc., etc. So I do kind of like the way it looks at the moment. However, if you are making an elevator pitch, you may need to make it a little bit shorter just because there are so many people that you want to talk to, and you want to make sure that whatever is written here is something that you can remember in the most succinct way as possible. So I might say something along the lines of, sounds good. However, it seems a little too long, which I know is a juxtaposition of some sorts. Can we make it shorter? And that's exactly what it will do. It'll now narrow it down from what seemed like two huge paragraphs into a paragraph and then some. And of course, if you want to make it shorter, you can definitely do so. If there's something you feel like maybe you can add, it'll help you add and then rewrite it again as well as you see fit. So this is definitely one of the ways you could potentially even, write your cover letter, potentially see how you can, maybe practice a couple of things when you are making the elevator pitch in the best way as much as you can, especially if you don't really have anybody that you can maybe rehash this type of messaging to. Again, one thing to keep in mind is that ChatGPT can do so much for you, but you also have to remember that ChatGPT can't do every single thing for you. So without further ado, this would conclude the end of this session on ChatGPT. Take it easy. Can you make jollof rice for me? Oh, this is still on.
Okay. How are we feeling so far? We
Here
all good?
is
We all good? Hopefully we definitely got a lot from that. One thing I feel like I didn't do that, which is something I tend to do quite a lot when I'm on my own. I always say thank you to the AI, just in case you never know what an uprising might look like. But I always have to say thank you afterwards, but I didn't do it at this time. But look, it is what it is. As a virtual attendee. So we're going to talk about anybody that will be connecting virtually, connecting at home. So these are some of the challenges I think that you might encounter. The first being distractions. I think when you're at home, you definitely tend to never know. You could be a parent, you could be a sibling, and there's going to be a lot of noise. I just think that sometimes that could be a bit of a challenge. It's not a big challenge, if we're being honest, because most of the time you will have your mic on mute anyways, but it is something to definitely be wary of. You're not in the similar environment that other people would be if they are attending physically, right? So that's something to definitely keep in mind as well. The roaming freedom, that's definitely something I think is so important, especially for the physical attendees. You probably won't have that as a virtual attendee, simply because I think API is definitely growing, and we're definitely going to head towards a much better platform as we go on. With this, I can only imagine, and I think the virtual experience will only continue to improve, right? But we're not there yet, and it's not even as a company, but we're not there yet from a Zoom perspective, right? But we're definitely to get there. So I think that those two would be the main challenges you face. Then again, they're really, really not that great because APNI has definitely catered a lot for virtual attendees, especially this year. So some of those opportunities that you can get from attending a virtual, career day like this is the experience behind breakout rooms. I like breakout rooms myself, and the reason is that it's a lot more of a controlled group. So if an employer is looking to speak to a select number of people, it's a lot more personable, I feel. And I feel like sometimes as attendees, you get to ask a lot more of your questions, and the likelihood of your questions being answered is quite high. Right. So that's definitely something that I feel like is a huge plus if you're attending virtually. You just get a little bit of that proximity, a lot more than maybe your average physical attendee might get as well. So if you are a virtual attendee, it's not all over. Like, I definitely think you should leverage it as much as possible and as much as you can. As well. The other opportunity that I think is amazing is the fact that you can network from the comfort of your own home, especially if you are nervous. I just think that if you don't want to meet people, if you don't want to be around people, and maybe you're more of an introvert, and this is coming from somebody that has been that has a history of being an introvert. This is an amazing opportunity for you to be able to just network from your home, speak to whoever you want to speak to, and you can just stay on mute if you don't want to talk to anybody, right? So that's definitely something to basically be wary of or be aware of. Then the final opportunity that I've included here, and I'm sure APNI will be happy to maybe talk through some more if they can. You do get to take that ownership, and I think that is a good opportunity. You have good ownership in this case. How you want the event to go really depends on you. If you feel like the event is going to go well and you want it to go well, a lot of input is definitely going to be on you. If you feel like you're not really getting the benefit of the career day itself, I would always say you have to look inward first and think about, hey, did I actually contribute as much as I could have contributed? Did I ask the right questions? Did I basically ask what I feel like I came here for? So I always, and we'll definitely talk through this, especially with the physical attendees as well. I always say, if you're attending any of this, always ask yourself the question, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And what am I hoping to get out of this? Because that's what is imperative, and that is what is important as well. And I think that you'll be able to have a much more positive experience when you have your checklist basically checked out, for lack of a better word. Okay. So some best practices that I would recommend if you are attending virtually, please make sure you have a stable internet connection. Most of the time you will have your camera on as well. So I always recommend keeping your cameras on, and this is for a more personable experience. And I think that this will definitely help you to be a lot more engaged. And with that said as well, please do come with a notebook. Feel free to take some notes. Take this as a teaching process as well. So, and obviously treat it like it's a lecture if you want to, treat it however you want, but I always recommend having a notebook so you can actually take down a few points. And this would also give you an opportunity to be able to ask some questions as well. So having a notebook and having your questions maybe written out already, please feel free to do so. And you'll notice that I'm saying a lot behind taking notes and asking questions. And the reason behind it is this. In an interview scenario, one of the things that we look up to, or one of the things that we look forward to when we're speaking to candidates, is candidates that actually have questions already written out or already thought out. I've actually seen hiring managers tell me the reason why we weren't really sure on this person is that their curiosity didn't seem to align with what we were looking for. They weren't curious. Then the reason we know they weren't curious is that when we asked them if they had any questions, they said no. And they go away thinking that they had a positive interview experience when this was the opportunity for them to showcase a lot more of that curiosity and to showcase a lot more of their understanding of the company and their understanding of the role as well. So even doing something along the lines of, if you're asking a question along the lines of, hey, I read that this role entails X, Y, and Z. Is this true? What more are you looking for here? It just showcases that you've done your homework, and it also showcases that you're still a lot more curious about the role than they actually thought as well. And so this is to contribute to the next point, which is be engaged. Do your very best to engage as much as possible. Of course, like I said, there will be distractions that will come, but when you do have opportunities to be a lot more engaged, I strongly recommend you take the opportunity to be able to do so. And of course, as well, you will get breaks during this time. So I do strongly recommend if there is a break, you walk away from your laptop or you walk away from your computer. There is such a thing as Zoom fatigue. So if you do have the opportunity to not look at your screens, feel free to go away. And the reason why I say leverage your breaks a lot more is because I know APNI is going to be very generous with their breaks, but also it just gives you that ability to be able to go out so that when you do come in, you can actually be a lot more engaged than maybe just standing and browsing and looking at LinkedIn and looking at other things as well. So that is one thing I will also say. There was a point that I missed out on this. I think maybe I might have it in the next couple of points. So before I say anything, let me just see what kind of slides we have coming up next as well. So it's very normal to look back at Career Day and talk about how great the event was and just leave it there. So you might want to also think about how you can apply everything you've learned either in today's webinar or during Career Day itself in order to be a lot more memorable. So let's look at the points. Some of the ways you can go about building a long-term relationship with businesses and recruiters. I normally initiate what is known as a three-stage follow-up sequence. We actually call it a sequence in our line of work. And the reason why it's a sequence is because you want to make sure that there is what we call a cadence. So you follow up at one stage to basically say, hey, so something along the, I'm just spitballing an example here, basically say something along the lines of, hey, I met you at Career Day. I really enjoy speaking with you. This is what we discussed. My name is X, Y, and Z. I mentioned that I might be in touch with regards to this position. I'm just wondering how we can go about maybe initiating our first interview or how we can go about maybe talking a lot more, maybe for the next 10 to 15 minutes if you have time. So that would be what we consider as sequence or cadence number one. Sometimes the recruiter might reply you or the hiring manager might reply you, or they might not. So in a position that they don't, you then initiate what we call sequence or cadence number two. And how you space that out is given about 3 to 5 working days. Try to make sure you're cultivating a culture of waiting a couple of days and then for the second sequence. So the second sequence could be along the lines of, hey, just following up on my previous message, I just wanted to talk through some of the things that we discussed via when we were working through Career Day. I'm just wondering if you do have some time. Really excited. I'm still keen on the actual position, and I'm still keen on the company. I'm just wondering if you had an opportunity to talk about X, Y, and Z again, right? And then what you want to do then is obviously wait again for another 3 to 5 working days and see if you get a response. Again, sometimes you may, sometimes you might not. And in the position that you might not, you can then send what I normally would call a final sequence to basically say, hey, listen, obviously I've been trying to reach out to you for the last couple of days. It seems like this might not be the right opportunity for us at the moment, but I'm very, very keen to maybe get in touch over the next couple of weeks or maybe over the next couple of months. If your time online or your schedule suits you, X, Y, and Z, etc., etc., etc. Right? And I say that to say this. This is when you know when to cut your losses. Maybe it could be various reasons. The recruiter or the hiring manager could be busy. This tends to happen a lot in our work. Sometimes we actually get what we call internal priorities, where we actually cannot get back to anybody either via email or via LinkedIn. So our line of work can definitely be a lot busy. But being able to know that there's somebody that is reaching out to us, like we do, like at least I know I do my best to try and get back to candidates as much as possible. And I wish I could speak to some of our own recruiters in our own community that we know that we're working on, making sure that we're just not posting candidates for the sake of posting them. So it's something that I feel like is definitely beneficial. Now, I say that to say this. What happens a lot around this time, and I've seen this happen quite a lot, is that candidates basically fall off and they never want to approach the recruiter and they never want to approach their company again. This is where I say you have to try to do your very best to remain in touch. And so if you can have a touch at least once a quarter, this would definitely help you quite a lot. You could just be like, hey, listen, spoke to you last quarter, but I wasn't able to reach you. These are some of the things that I've been working on as I've been thinking about the position that is either still open or might be open in the near future. I saw that your company is doing X, Y, and Z. This is what I've basically been working on. I'm just wondering if you have that 15 minutes or that 20 minutes that we can talk through. and just continue to do that at least once a quarter, because this way you're basically showcasing that you are interested, but you don't want to be bothersome, right? So you're just trying to see how you can basically get your feelers up. Now, I know what you might be thinking here as a candidate, and I hear you. Why do I need to go through all of this? It's such an effort, especially a lot. And one of the things that I get quite a lot as a recruiter is, you guys in HR, you just don't do this, you just don't do this, you just never reply, you just never follow up. And the same thing with recruiters as well. And sometimes we get lumped in with HR, even as recruiters, and like, you guys don't do what we ask you to do and stuff and things like that. And having been a sales recruiter, I've learned a lot about what salespeople do. And these are salespeople that work internally for companies. I've had to speak to salespeople that tell me all the time that they barely get a response from business owners that they're looking to sell to. And so these are some of the sequences that they actually have to do in order to reach out to the businesses so they can get money. So when I say this, I'm saying something that I know that even businesses struggle with. A lot of businesses struggle to reach out to other businesses because time is just of the essence for all of these businesses. But what they try to do is try and create sequences and cadences so that they won't be forgotten. A lot of companies have become the companies that they are right now because they've been relentless with how they follow up, because they've been relentless with how they reach out to other businesses, and because they have a product that they actually feel like is going to benefit that business, and there will be a mutual benefit for both companies. So this is what they do. So it's no different from when you're a candidate and you're trying to say, I can be an asset to you as a business, and you can be an asset to me by giving me the money that I require, and I can give you all of my expertise, etc., etc. So this is all to basically sum it up by this one point here at the second message. And this is to create a personal social brand on LinkedIn. At this point in time, I will take a little bit of a second, or maybe just a strong minute, to basically say, when I think about people on LinkedIn, one of the resounding feedback that I get from people on LinkedIn is that they don't like being on LinkedIn because they think that LinkedIn is so pretentious, or LinkedIn is really about people that just write a lot of essays just to basically demonstrate that they just passed their driving license, or it's a lot of, I'm very happy to announce that this is happening in my life, and it's all very boasty, very. But this is the thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of those things that is a it's like a gift and a curse, right? And the reason I say that is, as present as you are on LinkedIn, then the more present you are to the eyes of recruiters. I've written a lot of articles on LinkedIn. I've written a lot of messages on LinkedIn. And this has been a positive for me because when some recruiters reach out, even to me as a recruiter, they reach out saying something along the lines of, Innocent, I saw you wrote an article on this. This was so inspiring. I think that this would make you a really good asset for the team, or for our company that I'm currently recruiting for at the moment. Would you have an opportunity for us to have a chat? That's an opening that I didn't even know I needed, right? Or that's a company that I didn't even know was even recruiting. So I think that when you're writing about yourself and you feel so pretentious and you feel like, oh my God, this is such an effort to be doing on LinkedIn, think about that. You've probably been spending all of your life, or maybe you've been spending all of your career life, so to say, looking for employers and looking for recruiters to basically get back to you. And I'm telling you right now, if you cultivate a personal brand that will work for you and that will be tier one on LinkedIn, you will have recruiters looking for you because they know that you now have something. You have a social media presence, but you also have expertise that they didn't even think that they could be able to discover before this as well. So I hope everything I've kind of said has touched on a lot. I'm looking at the comments at the moment. I can see there's a lot of questions. So I'm really, really happy to see this, because maybe we'll definitely get a lot of time now to basically be able to speak a lot more, and maybe I can address your questions a lot closer as well. So without further ado, thank you so much for having me at the time. This would be a perfect opportunity for questions.
Thank you so much, Innocent. I learned a lot from this, very practical. So I see we have a few questions on this. I'm going to start with one from Fola. So she's asking, while networking, is it okay to ask for numbers?
To ask for contact numbers, is it? Yeah, okay. I would probably go with a softer approach. Instead of maybe asking for numbers, I would always ask for like a LinkedIn handle. I would also go for like an email address. I think that would definitely be something that's a lot more welcome. I don't really see a lot of employers giving out their numbers unless maybe they have like a business phone. So a lot, you probably will get numbers from people in the pharmaceutical industry, for example, because a lot of the employees are given mobile phones that you can actually use for their businesses. So I think maybe the best way is to maybe seek out an email address or maybe seek out a LinkedIn handle that you basically reach them.
Yeah, that works. Thank you so much. Please feel free to drop your comments in the chat and I will read them out. I see there's a question about the list of companies that will be present on the day. So we had presented that earlier in the session, but you can also just check our websites and our social media pages. All the companies who will be present are on there. And I hope that helps answer your question. So there's another one from Olajumoke. So she says, Hi, Innocent. Thank you for taking the time to prepare us for the upcoming career day. I recently migrated to Ireland, and my transferable skills align well with both strategy analyst and business analyst roles. How would you recommend I approach recruiters to effectively highlight my adaptability for these positions without coming across as unfocused?
Bear with me, I'm going to read it again for myself. So I recently migrated to Ireland and my transferable skills, okay, learned with both strategy analyst and business analyst role. How would you recommend I approach recruiters effectively highlight my adaptability for these positions without coming across as unfocused? I guess it's a good question. So I kind of get some of these things. So I would always say if you want to come across as unfocused, then pick a focus, right? Or maybe even just seek out the first 15 minutes to talk to a recruiter. But let me stay on the first point. The first point is I would probably come to you and say, look, are you looking for a business analyst role or are you looking for a strategy analyst role? And if you want one and not the other, then pick that focus and go with it. And then sometimes what happens is if you have an opportunity to interview, maybe say for a strategy analyst position, you could probably see how you can weave into, hey, I saw that there was a business analyst role as well. Which one do you think I'd be a lot more suited to? Do you get what I mean? And I think that once you have the door being the interview, then you can talk a little bit more behind those roles. But I would always say pick a focus before you jump into another role, or before you say, hey, I'm looking for this and I'm looking for that and I'm looking for this. Because that does make you look unfocused, unfortunately, because it's kind of like, do you know what you want? And I say that to say this, and thank you so much, Jamoke, for this particular question, because what has happened in the past for me is I've seen a lot of candidates write to me like, hey, Innocent, how are you? Here's my CV. Please, can you let me know what role you think I'd be beneficial for? And my first question every single time is, don't you know what you want? Do you know what I mean? So I would always say, pick what you want first, and then let's talk it through. And sometimes don't even come from a position of, hey, I'm looking for roles. Just coming in from the position of, I think there are a couple of roles that I might be interested in. Have 15 to 20 minutes for me to have a chat. And also know who you're speaking with as well, because some people will have the time to give you, some people just won't have the time to give you as well. But I always say, a company is so big, at least one person is going to want to speak to you.
Yeah, that's really good. Just on the back of that, do you think that putting, you know how you went through ChatGPT real quickly on the
Yeah.
elevator pitch, do you think if you see like different roles like that and you just like put in your CV and you ask ChatGPT to kind of rate how good you think you're suited for this role, is that a good way to also kind of check where you probably fit?
100%. So I normally say in a scenario that Jumoke would be in at the moment, I would normally say, hey, can I copy and paste everything about my CV? And can you let me know what seems to be a lot more a lot more aligned to like a business analyst versus what a strategic analyst is? And the ChatGPT normally would be able to do that. And I always say it depends on the type of question you're asking ChatGPT to do as well. And I think yes, for sure, Daniela, that definitely would be quite helpful. Another thing that I've missed out here as well is to tell you this. There are two types of recruiters. There's an agency recruiter and there's an in-house recruiter. And I say that to say this. Agency recruiters would probably give you more of their time because they have a plethora of clients and they have a plethora of roles that they might be looking to align you more towards. Whereas an in-house recruiter also will give you their time, but they actually are looking to hire against the roles that are available internally. Whereas agencies don't have that internal implication, right? They can basically say, look, we have MSD as a client, we have Amgen as a client, we have Pfizer as a client. So let's talk that through a little bit more. And they can actually help you craft out your CV a lot more. So what I see happening sometimes is that there seems to be an overlap in which recruiter that people are like, reaching out to. And I always say, check the company that you're actually assessing, or check the recruiter that you're speaking to. Do they belong to a recruitment agency, or do they belong to an in-house scenario? And you will be able to tell who is agency and who isn't, because most of the companies that they work in would actually specifically say that they work for a recruitment agency, or they work in staffing and recruitment. Whereas if you see an in-house recruiter, say they're an in-house, or say that they're a recruiter, the businesses that they work for would be the likes of, like, say, pharmaceuticals, or they'll probably say something along the lines of software development, and that's the actual business model itself as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we have another question from Bilal, who's asking, what's the best advice for people who are currently doing a master degree? I don't know if it's general advice or in relation to the career day, but if you could please be more specific, I'm sure that will help Innocent answer the question a bit more well. So I don't know if we should just wait for him to reply and then do another.
Yeah, yeah, that it'd be great to know, because then yeah, it'll probably tailor the response.
Answer. Yeah. So there's one from Abednego. He said, will you recommend coming with a copy of your CV or having it as a QR code the employees can scan? The employers, sorry, can scan.
Yeah, I'm very conflicted with this question. And the reason why I say that is I've been to Korea Day, and sometimes, yeah, I would recommend you bring it. I think if it's as up to date as possible, definitely bring it and speak. But the challenge you might encounter, and I'm not saying this so you can actually be discouraged. The challenge you might face is that some of the recruiters that do, or some of the employers that do come in that particular day, might actually not be focusing on the job that you're potentially looking for, but they might be able to give you one or two pieces of advice. So if you want to bring your CV, 100% bring it. I potentially, if I'm not too busy, I'll potentially be there. I'll be there on the day. But if there's a moment for me to actually look at, I'm happy to look at some of your CVs and let you know what I think is good. Sometimes I'll look at the situation, and I'll look at, does it actually flow as a CV as well. So I should be able to give you a quick 2 to 3 minutes. So yeah, please don't be discouraged to not bring your CV. There will be recruiters on hand that day, and there will be employers on hand that day as well. But I always say, keep in mind, you're not going to get your job that day, but you definitely will have a lot more exposure to be a lot more memorable. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, there's going to be CV clinics. So if you're unsure of how your CV looks, please feel free to pop into one of the sessions, and then someone from LinkedIn will get it checked for you as well. So thank you for that. So the next question is from Erica. She says, I'm currently in my final year of undergrad and I hope to do a master's for 1 year after. How do I go about connecting with recruiters in a way that keeps them engaged with me as a potential employee until my master's is complete?
Yeah, so I think the quarterly check-in would probably work a lot better for you here, Erica. And the reason why I say that is, if you know you've been speaking to somebody, and I have a history of candidates I've been speaking with, and we check up on each other maybe once or twice in a year sometimes. So I think if you're maybe keeping in touch at least quarterly, be like, hey, America, we spoke during career day. I told you that I'm currently studying for X, Y, and Z. I'm just checking in today to let you know this is what I've been learning in my uni at the moment, but this is also what I'm working on. And I'm really excited to maybe kickstart a potential conversation in the near future. That's definitely one way to keep in touch. You can do that at least once a quarter. I always say as well, sometimes when you're maybe heading towards your second or your third quarter, recruiters don't have an issue, depending on what role you're obviously applying for. They don't have an issue maybe looking at interviewing with you around that third quarter, so that by the time you're finished studying and you can start a new job, you can start almost nearly immediately as well. And also feel free to connect with them in this particular scenarios in case they have like potential internships that they might have on hand as well while you're studying for that 1 year, if you obviously your university allows for it, if possible as well. So I always say that there's definitely a lot of opportunity there to be able to maybe keep in touch with employers while you're studying.
Agreed, 100%.
Can I ask a question, if possible?
Uh,
Sure.
yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm actually, sorry, I'm a bit shaky. I'm Pakistani.
Yeah.
So, and I've come to Ireland, and it's a bit hard for the job market to accept me.
Yeah.
What do I do in terms of looking good for the employers? Thank you.
It's a good question. Can I just say this? I've been in Ireland for 19 to 20 years, and I'll be honest with you in saying that the job market for me is no easier for me than it is for you. Do you get what I mean? So I hear what you mean by
Yes.
presentation. I think presentation is definitely key in everything that you're talking about. I don't I don't know what I don't know about you. So what I think might be useful for us to do is maybe have a bit of a closer conversation in terms of
Mm,
understanding where your background is and understand where you're coming from, what are some of the challenges you've been facing as well.
yes.
And I think that that will probably help me make a more tailored answer better for you. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it's the more tailored approach. Like everyone is different. Is
Yeah.
very important. I completely agree. Thank you so much.
Yeah, not a hassle at all. Happy to help for sure.
Thank you for that. So I'll just take a couple more questions. So there's one more from Michelle. She says she's a
Okay.
science graduate whose course didn't offer a work experience. How
Okay.
can she make herself more attractive to employers, especially when they all want experience?
Yeah. Science grad whose course didn't offer any work experience. How should I make myself a reward? There's different ways to for me, okay, I can tell you what happened to me because I did the same thing, right? So I studied psychology for 3 years, and then I very quickly knew that psychology was going to be a dead end for me. So I did a master's in human resources management, and I also didn't have experience when I was actually ready to move into my next role. But there is one thing I did, and that was to look into graduation programs, whatever grad program was there, and I'm happy to take me. I ended up in the hotel industry, doing a few grad jobs in there. So they basically landed me in compensation and benefits. They landed me in human resources, into front of house, into back of house. Do you know what I mean? So I was able to do that for a specific number of time before I would actually get my first career offering type of role. So don't I wouldn't be too worried if you don't have that internship or maybe experience with your current company. I would say look at what summer internships are there because you do need to get your foot in the door one way or the other, right? Look at what grad programs might be there as well, because that's also a potential way to kind of get in, right? And if you're looking at those things, they should be a little bit more helpful. I know there is a very strong need. I know how hard it is at the moment, so there's always a need to just want to jump into a role that is already paying great, but sometimes there's actually need to be able to start somewhere. I don't want to put APNI under the bus here or anything like that, but I always say this: there's a lot of groups like APNI that offer opportunities for you to be a volunteer. That's experience. Be able to talk through that a little bit more. Be able to maybe see if you can engage as a volunteer, right? For groups like APNI. And hopefully I haven't bombarded APNI with a lot of requests to become a volunteer in the near future, right? But I think that if you have opportunities to be able to volunteer in other ways, that is experience that you can talk through when you are looking for jobs as well. I know sometimes they need them to be a lot more science specific, and I completely get that. And I think that the internship, maybe be it a summer or maybe a weekend type of internship when you're actually studying as well, that could be something that might potentially help for you as well.
Thank you for that, Innocent. And APNI is always happy to welcome some volunteers, so please feel free to reach out.
Nice.
Just on the back of not having work experience, so there's another question from Idris, who was also an undergrad who just finished science degree, and he's looking to get a role in the pharmaceutical field, but he doesn't have any formal experience and is looking to land an entry role in a slightly different field. What would you advise him to do?
It depends on what we mean by slightly, I think, because that's quite relative. I can see so you have in science degree, but in pharmaceutical field, what advice would you? I think it's really a matter of expertise because what you'll find, some entry level roles are not as entry as they want to make it out to seem. So a lot of entry roles are now requiring a lot of experience, right? So I think it's an expertise understanding, and it's how transferable your field is to the pharmaceutical industry because science is very broad. Do you get what I mean? So I feel like if you can be able to extrapolate how transferable you can be to the pharmaceutical industry, then well and good. Do you know what I mean? And I always also say this as well. I recommend, like my biggest recommendation would be if you have an opportunity to work in your current field at the moment with a company and then seeing how you can maybe laterally transfer internally after some time, that might be an interesting shoe in, right? That might be something you could do. And I say that to say this. When I started working, um, even though I had like a human resources master degree, that wasn't my first job. My first job was to actually be a recruiter, right? And then as time went on, I then wanted to become a human resources person, and that's how I internally laterally transferred. And I did HR for some time. Now, for me, I very quickly realized that HR actually wasn't for me, so I was actually very eager to come back to become a recruiter. But the lesson is still there. I was able to do that internally because it was an opportunity for me to do so. So I think that that could be an opportunity for you as well if you should be able to maybe land into something that's a lot more science related and then maybe laterally transfer it to the pharmaceutical field if it is possible. But again, this might not be as helpful as you wanted it to be. So I might recommend that maybe we also talk offline and then I'll see if we can meet with some time if possible.
Amazing. So I'll just take about three more questions and then we can do a few announcements and wrap it up. So there's a question from Cecile. So I'm just gonna summarize it. But basically, she's about to finish her master degree in business analytics, and she's
Okay.
actively job hunting for the past year. She's asking, would it be advisable to mention to company representatives at Career Day that she has recently applied for a specific position at their company and ask them to keep an eye out for her application? And then she also asked a question about visa issues. I don't know if you want to handle that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I come across this quite a lot, so that's absolutely fine. But I'm also happy to say, hopefully, and fingers crossed that unless things have changed, they may or may not be a group that actually would be able to assist in how you might be able to broach the conversation around having a stamp 1G visa. They're known as Fragamen. If Fragamen will be there, please feel free to keep an eye out on how you basically can talk through that conversation a little bit more. For sure, I understand the implications behind the stamp 1G visa. I think as a recruiter, there's a lot of education that we don't have behind that. So yes, I think that there's definitely a way that applicants can maybe communicate that a lot better and to say, this is what the 1G visa means for me, and this is what it means for you as an employer, right? Because I've seen a lot of people saying that they haven't been hired because they have a 1G visa and it isn't what employers think that it is, right? That's all I will say on that topic, if that's okay. But on the other hand of what you just said, yes, it's 100%. Feel free to tell recruiters, hey, I've applied. Can you maybe keep an eye out on my application? But I would go a little bit deeper and just say something along the lines of, hey, look, I've been applying for your company and I don't seem to have been, successful. Is there any particular reason? Would you be okay to maybe look at my application or maybe look at my CV then in that case and see what might be missing and why I might not be aligned for this position or why I might not have been considered for this position as well. That's not a hostile conversation to have. Do you know what I mean? That's actually a good conversation to have with them because they might be able to be like, oh, maybe the reason why you weren't actually addressed or the reason why there wasn't a conversation or maybe you weren't called up for an interview was because maybe you were lacking in this and maybe we needed this, et cetera, as well. So I do hope that helps as well.
Thank you so much, Innocent. So I'm going to wrap the last question up from three different questions that we've gotten. So basically, they're asking what general advice would you give to people who, first of all, just migrated to Ireland with work experience from abroad? Secondly, for people who are doing their master's degree, and then first year undergrad, do you think this career day is going to be helpful for them as well? So, yeah.
So general advice would you give to people who migrate to Ireland with work experience from abroad? How should they prepare themselves during this career day? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I don't know is the first thing I will say. I try to make sure that I don't lie to people with this particular thing. And the reason I say this is it depends on what your previous work experience is and what you're looking at here. Do you know what I mean? If you're saying you've been a salesperson in, I'm going to just throw my country because it's my country. If you've been a salesperson in South Africa, for example, and then you're looking to basically become a salesperson in Ireland, what you will find is that your sales experience in South Africa actually does not really communicate well in comparison to your experience in Ireland, right? And it's the same thing with having sales experience in America and looking to maybe sell in Europe. It's completely different in that regard. Why? Because they sell differently and they communicate a little bit differently as well. I don't think it's about being able to carry yourself, but I think that you can maybe do it in a way that you can just speak to the skill set that you have. right? And I think if you can speak to the skill set that you have that transfers laterally and very seamlessly into what Ireland is facing at the moment, that's the only way to basically be able to, I guess, for lack of a better word, carry yourself. Your previous experience is still experience and it's still relevant. So that shouldn't be a blocker just because you had it in a different country. But you will find that there's some nuances that maybe you might need to upskill. And this happens all the time, especially for people that have like a medical degree. Nigeria, for example, and they're looking to basically improve their medical degree here, or if they have a law degree in a different country and they're looking to basically have law experience here in Ireland. There's just a few nuances that can definitely be overcome. It's just a matter of how we can have that conversation. So again, I think that for somebody like yourself, Joshua, having asked this question, it's really a matter of how you communicate that with hiring managers or with recruiters on the day and be like, look, I know obviously that this experience comes from this, but this is actually what I've done, and being able to speak to your strengths during that time, I think that will really, really, put you at a more advantage. Sorry, was there another question that I maybe might have missed in this case?
So somebody asked if she's a first year undergrad, is this career day beneficial for her? And then general advice for master students.
Okay. Uh, is this, sorry, who was it? I'm sorry, I'm also looking at it. So is this career day beneficial for her? What's her background? So what was the question tied to?
So it's from iPhone.
Okay.
Says I'm currently in the first year of undergrad. Would you say
Okay.
career day would be beneficial to me? And then
Oh, okay.
Bilal from
Gotcha.
Bilal from previously had asked, he's doing a master's in data science and analytics. What
Hmm.
would you best advice for him?
Yeah, good question. So to the student that is in their first year of undergrad, 100% comes career day. And the reason why I say this is it's better to start learning how to, and I was actually going to say this before, so I do apologize for this. So corporate is like corporate or the corporate setting or the corporate language is a language in itself. So yeah, 100% come in and have these conversations because you're basically improving your corporate language. So even if you're on your first year of undergrad studying and you want to come in and maybe you want to talk through, it is beneficial in the sense of you need to be on trend with what is happening at the very moment as well. So there's a lot of big four companies as well that actually see people that are currently studying at the moment, right? Especially if you're like doing accountancy, et cetera, et cetera. So they can kind of keep you in their pipeline to know that you're coming up at some point and you're going to be considered for future roles as well. So you have to think from a perspective of I'm not ready now, but ready later. And that's it. And we have a saying for that. So sometimes when we're speaking to people that are students, we basically say not ready now, but ready later. So it's a way for you to be like, hey, listen, keep an eye on me. I'm coming up. Do you know what I mean? And that's the best way. It's kind of like if you're in the music industry, sometimes you have to show up in people's music videos before you become a musician yourself in the near future as well. Just it's the same mentality. You just have to make sure that you're letting them know that look, I'm coming up and I'll be able to get into the future as well. So, and to answer the last question as well, as a master's student, I think sometimes a lot of master's programs don't give you the opportunity to be able to, to be able to maybe look into internship positions because it is just 1 year, so they might not have internships. So I would recommend if it's a pity now because summer's gone, right? But if there's any future internships or summer internships that you can do, or if there's any like seasonal internships that you can embark on, start doing that now. If there's grad programs that you are potentially coming up as well, start looking into those now as well, right? There's a lot of career days, like there's a lot of career fairs, like the likes of Brad Island. Brad Island is a really, really good website for people. So if you go on Brad Island and you're looking for graduate programs, you can definitely go there as well. And there's other graduate specific programs as well that you can look into, so that by the time you're actually done university and you're looking to basically be in employment, you have a bit of a little bit more leverage against the other candidates, so to say. And again, this is something I actually have on my TikTok as well. So I know I'm plugging myself. I shouldn't do that, but look, do definitely look into some of those videos because it does help you be able to, see how you can be a lot more advantageous, especially as a student. A lot of students don't. A lot of universities don't talk a lot about internships and they don't talk a lot about grad programs. This is something that you probably have to do for yourself so you can get ahead of the game a little more. So I 100% advise that if you're a master's student as well. So please feel free to engage with and network with people as well. Speak with people that are doing stuff. And again, the reason why I initially said I love asking people what they do, it's also so I can understand what people are actually working on and seeing how it can be useful. Like when I was speaking to Edima, I literally plugged myself and just say, hey, listen, this is what I'm doing. And today, this is what I'm doing. Do you get what I mean? And I wouldn't have done that if I didn't actually approach them as well. And I feel like you need to constantly be approaching people and seeing how you can lay your expertise as well. And just because you're a master's student doesn't mean that you can't grasp experience. You can be working on stuff even as a student as well. So if you find yourself doing something, just do it and just be able to talk about it as well. And for anybody that is in, I don't know, like, I'm going to speak from my perspective as a Black person. Like, if you're in a church or if you're in a choir group and you know that you have a particular position, maybe you're like a choir leader and maybe you're like, I don't know, like a church leader of some sort, if you can't speak about that, that's experience. Like, and I feel like if you're in a voluntary group of any sort, right, you could be maybe, it could be Docs Trust, it could be children or whatever the case might be, you should be able to put that on your CV as voluntary work that is quite useful. And you should be able to put that on your CV as leadership experience that you might have. Like we all know how hard it is to be a leader in those settings. So why don't you talk about that? Why don't you, put that as something that you've done in the past as well? So please do feel free to leverage as much experience as you can, even from some things that aren't really paying jobs, so to say, as well.
Thank you so, so much, Anything, for that. And speaking of plugging yourself, do you want to let us know how we can get in touch with you after this session? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, good question. Thank you very much. Humble plug for sure. My name is Innocent Matthew. So if you're looking for me on LinkedIn, Innocent Matthew is the way to do it. If you're looking for me on the likes of TikTok or Instagram, it's Ino the Recruiter. So I will be able to kind of put that out there somewhere. So please feel free to look after Ino the Recruiter. So INNO the Recruiter all together in one sentence. And I look forward to seeing you watch my TikToks. I look forward to seeing you watch my Instagrams. And I look forward to seeing you at Career Day for APNI 2024 this Thursday. You will see me. I might run away from me, but you'll see me. But all the same, I really look forward to really speaking with you guys. I think it's been an interesting. I hope you've learned a lot from this as well. And I can really hope you will be looking to learn a lot more. So yeah.
Thank you so, so much, Innocent. This has been fantastic. Before everybody rushes to leave, we actually have a surprise for you. So you want to kind of stay a few more minutes. But thank you so much, Innocent, for this. I've personally taken a lot from it, and I'm hoping to kind of apply that. I'm definitely going to get my elevator pitch ready for Career Day, and I hope to see everybody on the call on there. So now to our surprise. So I'm just going to ask a question and I want everybody to kind of just put an answer in the chat, right? So how many of us would love the opportunity to have free lunch with a CEO of a multinational company? If this is you, just put an emoji in the chat or just say me. I just want to see what that is looking like. Okay, 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 okay. I see a good number of me's. Fantastic, fantastic. So APNI is the gift that keeps on giving. And so this year's career day, there's going to be the opportunity for one of you to have lunch with Sue Duke, who is the VP Global Policy and Economic Graph and Country Manager for LinkedIn Ireland. So if you're coming for the career day, you definitely don't want to miss this opportunity. And how can you get this? It's not just that, you also get a free course from the UCD Professional Academy, fully sponsored. And the way to do this is basically, first of all, come for Career Day, be at Career Day. You need to be there to be able to win this prize. And then secondly, make sure you visit all 20 of our stands. So visit all the company stands. And then at each company stand, make sure you scan the QR code on the stand. So there's going to be a thing called a passport. So once you come in for career day, you get registered for the passport. And at every stand that you visit, you need to make sure that you're scanning the QR code. And that's not it. You need to also fill out our post-event survey. So what the survey basically aims to do is kind of get how you felt about career day and what you enjoyed so that we can keep doing this. So if you want to win the lunch and the free course, make sure that one, you come for career day, two, register for the digital passports, three, visit all 20 stands, and then lastly, fill out the post-event survey at the end of the day. So we're really looking forward to seeing everybody at this year's career day. is happening again this Thursday, which is 17th of October from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. There are two sessions, the afternoon session and the evening session. It's happening at the LinkedIn office. The Google Map link should have been sent to your emails later this week. But if you just type in the LinkedIn office as well in Google Maps, it should direct you right there. So yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing you. I'm just gonna give about 2 minutes for any questions regarding the career day before we wrap this up. I see somebody's asking, is there parking? Unfortunately, there isn't parking at the LinkedIn office, so you have to make provision for yourself to get parking space. Someone is saying, I'm joining the afternoon session. Should I wait till the 9 p.m.? Are you asking this because of the price or just for generally? But if you're asking generally, the evening and the afternoon session are basically the same thing. So there's literally the same thing happening in the afternoon session and the evening session. We did like that just to kind of make sure that as many people as possible are able to get into the building and experience it. But should you perhaps win the prize, you don't really need to wait till the 9 p.m. It'll be sent to your email either ways and to be announced. So yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing you. I'll just give 1 more minute to take any questions for the career day. Is there any questions regarding the career day?
All right, thanks so much, Daniela and Innocent. I see there's a question about parking. Did we address that?
I did. I did. I I'll just reiterate that as well. So unfortunately, LinkedIn isn't able to provide parking for anyone on that day. So if you're driving, I would suggest looking for a car park around Charlemont or just Wilson Place because we're unable to provide parking, unfortunately. Somebody's asking, I was to join in person, but will have to join virtually. What's the process for joining virtually? So you need to purchase tickets on our website. If you just go on our website, Career Day, you can purchase the virtual tickets to attend virtually. When will this recording be uploaded to YouTube? Um, Unfortunately, I cannot tell the specific day, but I know it's going to be uploaded for sure. So keep an eye on our social media platforms so that you know when it's uploaded. Yeah, if you join late, yeah, the recording is going to be made available as soon as possible. So just keep your eye on your emails and our social media platforms.
Sorry, just one thing about keeping your eye on your email. LinkedIn would have sent an NDA login to your email today. So please try and sign that NDA ahead of time so that you don't wait too long at registration at the event when you get to the venue. It's just pretty much a quick your name and email. Within 30 seconds, you'll be done. So look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday.
Thank you, Adema. Someone's asking, can I come after work? Yeah, if you signed up for the evening session, please feel free. The evening session starts from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Mhm. Cool. So thank you so much. Ines. Are we allowed to take photos at the event? Yes, you are allowed to take photos, and we definitely recommend you take photos. And please tag APNI and LinkedIn on the day when you do take photos. So we're looking forward.
And Daniela, what's the hashtag for the day?
Our hashtag is wow. Hashtag APNI Career Day 2024. I'm just gonna put that in the chat real quickly. So feel free to post on your LinkedIn, tell us that you're coming on the day itself as well. Cool. Someone saying if we got the evening event, can we still come in the afternoon? So unfortunately, your ticket is only valid for the session that you registered for. So if you registered for the evening session, please make sure that you're coming for the evening session. And if you register for the afternoon session, please make sure you're coming for the afternoon session.
Just to give people context, it's just so we can manage capacity in terms of the venue. But should they be leeway on the day, we'll let you know, but we can't really decide on the call. So try help us so everybody gets to have an opportunity to chat to the company and experience career day.
Yes, amazing. I think we're right on time. So I'm just gonna wrap this up. Oh, sorry, somebody's asking a question. On the NDF notes, they wrote that we want to take pictures. So I think you can take pictures of the career day events, just not what's happening outside of the career day. Because remember, this is LinkedIn. People are still working. That's an organization on itself. But for example, if you get into the building and you see the LinkedIn logo and want to take a picture by it with the APNI balloons and all of that, please feel free to take a picture of that. But like in other areas where you might stumble upon, please do not take pictures past that. I don't know if that makes sense. Edima, do you want to clarify
Yes,
on that?
yeah, definitely. You can take pictures. So we're gonna be on the ground floor. So once you get in, Innocent shared that picture and video earlier on. So we're gonna be at the ground floor. Most of the events will be on that floor. You can take pictures. Yes, we definitely want you to share your experience. But again, like Daniela said, it's an office at the end of the day, and there are certain things that needs to be protected. So say for example, you see a meeting room where people are sitting, you can't, stay behind that, just to be conscious of that. But overall, yes, definitely pictures, videos, that's what we love because we want to hear if you had a great experience. So we can go back again next year, pretty much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Jessica, you said you haven't been able to locate the NDA. I'm sure they're still rolling out a couple more, but if you haven't, you should check like your spam. I think it's going to be sent from LinkedIn, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it will be sent from LinkedIn. And if you haven't received it, don't panic. It's all right. You can still show up. But if you have, just sign up ahead of time so that, if you're meant to stay 1 minute in the registration queue, you'll stay maybe 5 seconds because you already have the NDA signed up. So that's just pretty much. But don't worry if you haven't received it yet. You still get to be given one at the venue.
Sorry, please, a quick question. I registered for the afternoon, but I won't be able to make it. I would like to attend the second one. So is there any way I can change mine for the next section?
Um, I don't know if NK is on the call, but NK, do you want to
Yeah,
answer that
yeah,
question?
we are currently sold out for both sessions. Like what Edima said is we can make some allowance, but that depends on the capacity on the day, so we can't really say on the call on regards to that.
But
Okay.
all our advice is if send us an email so that we have that on file just in case something pops up on the day itself.
Okay, I would send an email because I'm coming from NACE, so it's really unfair if I come and there's no way for me to get in.
Yeah, don't worry. Just send us an email. So the
Yeah,
email is
just send us an email, yeah. And like Daniela said, would know want to see you at the door.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, just for the email you said she sent, I've sent an email to that address and nobody has gotten back to me. It's just for her own sake. I sent an email asking a question to that email and I got no response over 2 weeks ago.
What was the email about?
It was
Sorry.
just asking similar questions about the afternoon and evening, but I ended up getting somebody to get back to me on Instagram, so it's fine. It's just for the lady. It might be easier for her to text the Instagram because that's where I was able to get a response. But they
Okay.
answered my query anyway.
All right. Thanks for flagging that. Our team will look into that.
And sorry, just somebody mentioned the NDA has everyone's names, and is that a breach of privacy? I'm just wondering if that could be addressed. I actually didn't know that people's names are listed on the NDA. Steph A has written that question in the chat box.
Thank you for flagging. So, for the end year, that's been sent from our partner LinkedIn. Thanks for letting us know. I'll get onto the LinkedIn team and sort of understand what the situation is. Normally you shouldn't. It should be addressed directly to you. So, we'll look into that. Thanks again for letting us know.
amazing. Thank you so much everyone for joining tonight's call. We're 3 minutes over time, so I'm gonna allow everybody to have a good evening and rest ahead of career day. Thank you so much again, Innocence, for taking the time to do this. And thank you so much to everyone who took our time to join this session as well. Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn. And if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us and we will try our very best to respond in due time. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a